Losing a life partner is one of the most mind-numbing, life-altering events anyone can experience. It is the one person whom you organized your entire life around. You can feel as if you've been set adrift, lost or dismembered. It can even feel like we've lost our own life.
I just find myself wondering, is there a future for me? And I struggle against allowing myself to have hopeless kind of thoughts. But I do have times when I wonder what is ahead. And
we were looking into a new era of our lives. And the day he died, the moment he died, all of that is gone.
A big difficulty that we have worked at getting over is that Murray was such a wonderful listener. I try to be, but I tend to talk and give opinions faster than Murray would. And Matt's had to get used to that. And I think that's really the biggest hole in his life, that he doesn't have somebody like that.
So I have never experienced loneliness until I lost my husband.
And to be working hand in hand to reach life goals according to shared values, so that when you lose your partner, when you lose someone who has been an integral and indispensable part of your life, it's natural to feel as if you've lost your anchor.
It's just, there's really no words to describe it. When people ask me, how does it feel? I say, I don't know how it feels. It's just an empty. It's a big empty void. Your best friend, your lover, your boyfriend, your partner is gone.
It really doesn't matter how rich or poor, endearing or conflicted the marital relationship was. The loss of your spouse throws your life into chaos. If you have children, especially dependent children, you'll feel the weight of responsibility immediately. I remember writing in my journal just days after the funeral saying, God help me, I have 4 little hands that want to be held, and I only have 2. In one moment, 2 strong horses were pulling in rhythm. In another moment, there was only one. The law of physics is immediately felt. The full weight of responsibility to raise these children alone was overwhelming.
I feel like I'm too young to be alone the rest of my life, and at the same time, I cannot ever imagine being anything else but alone.
Even if you're experiencing a turbulent stage of marriage, you begin to discover how much your partner was a part of your life.
The first task is to rebalance your day-to-day external world. Rebalancing your life after a partner dies may take as long as a year or more. Just getting a handle on finances, children, chores, meals, pets, and repairs, just to name a few, takes time. When you've found the balance in your life again, you'll start to focus on your new identity. Being a single person again will be unfamiliar, especially when you still feel married.
It's like the end of a dream, really, that you have to let go of, and you have to try to make a new dream, but that's hard to do.
I know when I go to bed and close my eyes, those memories could come. So there's lots of times I don't go to bed till 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning.
In the parenting and the bringing up of our children, John did as much of that as I did, rather than a traditional role where maybe it's the mother who deals with the children all the time. It was probably him that dealt with the children, and I have to pick up that. Not that I have to, but I'm not sure that I'm so good at it.
As your new identity emerges, there's a wave action that's taking place. The new tide is rising higher, but the undercurrent surges in retreat. Your life will begin to take new direction. There will be new activities, hobbies, and involvements, many of which you would have never considered during your marriage. You will courageously move forward, letting your partner gradually retreat to a new place in your life, one of honored memory.
I mean, you have to live, you have to go on, you have to move forward. And I still have a long way to go. I mean, this is a journey. And like I said before, I think it's just going to be for the rest of my life, this journey.
Moving on without your partner may cause you to feel guilty. That's a normal feeling. Instead, think of their memory as an important and valued compass coordinate for your journey.
Some find it helpful to intentionally imagine their loved one's likeness and voice to offer encouragement. What would they say to me right now? As you need it, this kind of support can help you forge into the future.
I talked to him this morning before I left. I talked to Bob because I know exactly what he would say. We used to finish each other's sentences. And
I have my husband's pictures, and I put them on the fridge, and I talk to them. I talk to him, and in the morning when I get up, I give him a kiss on the picture, or at night when I go to bed.
Living with loss is about facing what's no longer there. Some of those gaps need to be filled in very practical ways. There'll be certain times in your week that will be harder than others. If Saturday evening is particularly difficult, make sure you schedule an activity to get you through that period of time in a way that will not add to your emotional pain.
You may or may not have religious bearings. However, most of the couples we interviewed believed in life after death. The belief that this journey we travel is just one leg of a much larger expedition definitely stabilized them with a quiet but firm joy. Spiritual moorings are, without a doubt, firm anchors during turbulent storms.
Blood and flesh and tissue and mind and fiber, and we suffer. We have faith, but there's something more to it than that. Again, it's like the idea that God guarantees that you're going to pay off the mortgage, or that you're going to win the lottery, you're going to make lots of money. That's not what God said. In fact, Jesus said you may have it really tough. You could argue that Jesus, in fact, guarantees more suffering than joy on earth. You can read it both ways, but not relevant. What really is relevant, what he guarantees, as I said, is not a good life, it's a perfect eternity. You can't look at it from the materialistic point of view or the secular point of view. If you believe it's birth to death, then it makes no sense at all. And in fact, the whole point of suffering reinforces my belief that there is a God and there is an afterlife.
It does make me think about what the future holds now that I'm alone. I guess everybody's circumstances are different. We were together 47 years, and then all of a sudden, you're alone. And sometimes you say to yourself, I'm single. I'm actually single. I
go to a support group and a widow's grief group. We call it the WWF, Women Widows with Families. That's what I call us. And there's 6 of us there, and I'm the oldest widow at the age of 52. I find that really tragic. And 4 of us have lost our husbands suddenly, and the other 2 husbands were murdered. And that has its own unique grief, because they're both very young wives. And we go and talk about what it's like to raise children, what we were going to do over the Christmas holidays, what we do when men come on to us, or we wish more men would come on to us, or we hope they never do, or what are we going to do when that time comes? All those kinds of things that we try and deal with. And
you see sometimes a tendency to isolate yourself. It's important that we not move into isolation, because then we don't find the strength that we need from a community of faith.
Although you may feel alone, know you are not alone. Let your memories steady you, and as you rebalance your life, courageously let the tide carry you towards your new identity and your new future.
The important thing we must remember as well is not to judge somebody else because they don't grieve like I do. Your wife may be grieving differently than you, and that's okay. She's a woman, and God made her a certain way. She's had certain circumstances, environmental. She's grown up in certain ways. She's going to grieve differently than you do. But the important thing is that we grieve together.
Grief is always a family thing. Because of our emotional ties, someone else's journey affects ours. Each family member may respond quite differently, but each one's reaction is securely tied to each of the other family members.
Grief is all about relationship. So the difficulties come because of the relationship. When you lose a child, there is huge feelings that we are supposed to protect our children. We'll be able to fix things that happen to our children. So part of the pain in our loss in losing our children is, I think we do feel huge areas of blame. I think you feel that in other griefs too, but it's certainly present in the loss of children.
We, all three of us, have really experienced this differently and have really handled it differently. Some have been very open, some have been very close to sort of the sadness. Others have been just down, really down, and unable to sort of pull themselves out of that. So there's been a real mix.
A family is a living system. Communicating pain inside that system will create a reverberating wave. Unless the structure has supportive buffers to handle large emotional waves that death creates, the collective boat can be a frightening and stressful place to be in. Some members of your family may fear capsizing. Others will send out signals to stop any expression of pain that everyone is feeling. The measure of the agony of loss is often directly related to the degree of closeness in the family. You can expect the loss of a deep attachment will generate a large response. We have become who we are through relationships. In a moment of time, we become a widow, fatherless, or part of a single-parent family. Our individual and family identity is directly affected by death. In this way, loss of a loved one is a crisis of identity. The family is now faced with having to recreate itself.
And people need to know that that's normal, because they often feel that their reaction is abnormal. They feel that they're losing their minds. They've lost their life, when in fact they've lost an important part of their identity, of what their life has been with their loved one.
He kept the thread, which was our family, that pulled us along.
When death visits families, it interrupts and redirects the normal flow of family development for both adults and children. The collective boat begins to take on emotional water and safety is threatened. Different members will scramble to find ways to keep it safe and moving forward on its journey. There is an internal recognition that while Mom may have been the glue in the family, others will be finding new ways to keep it together. When your family's stability is thrown off, you can expect that you will be severely challenged in your ability to manage intense emotions, problems, parenting, and maybe even communication.
Our identity comes from those around us, mirrors back. So my friend gives me an identity that I'm her friend, and we know all what that involves, my husband. And so when we lose that person, we lose that identity in the family that that person has mirrored back to us. So the family is very much changed by the absence of that person.
There's a quiet in the house that isn't there now, that is there now, that wasn't there before.
As a father, my whole life is my kids. It's always has been, always will be. I had a little touch of almost losing a son once, and was devastated by that time. To actually lose one is just the greatest sorrow I could ever feel.
Your family's first priority is to reestablish a state of equilibrium.
So I would say that my mum, for instance, was the glue in our family. She brought us all together and she was the glue, you know. So our whole family dynamic changed with the passing of our mum.
Your second priority is to change the way your particular family interacts and sees itself. Like changing places in a canoe on a windy day, shifting the way you do family is a challenge. The goal is to allow for change while remaining stable. You just may get wet, but it's critical not to capsize.